Welcome to the Tansson Talk Show. I'm Brandon, the host of this show, and I'm so glad to be here today as I continue on my mission to bring people together. I always love doing this show, and I am just thrilled to have with me today Parish Thompson. Thank you so much for being here.
Ooh, thank you so much, Brandon, podcast master. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and thank you so much for coming on. And so, first of all, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. I have a lunch later this afternoon and a project to present. So, my mind is on all the things I have to do later, but we're just going to take it one step at a time.
Well, I can imagine as such, and definitely I hope you have fun at the lunch and do well with the project.
Thank you so much. It's a group project and we finished it last night. So, it looks fine, but I think we could have spent a little bit more time on it. However, it was a little bit hard because it was based on the medical field and none of us are in the medical field. So, it was a marketing project. So we were like trying to like scrounge all the details we could before making the presentation. So I think last night we were finally like, okay, whatever we got, let's just make it work.
But that's definitely the spirit of things. But like I said, I'm just so excited to have you on. If you're able to go ahead and introduce yourself for the watching or listening audience here today.
Yes. Hi, I'm Parish Thompson. I am a 20-year-old college student at Old Dominion University. Right now, I'm in my third year studying strategic communications, and I'm a minor in marketing. Well, I have a minor in marketing. So, yeah, that's how I met Brandon. And I'm really passionate about the field. I think it's great. And just every year that I get into it, I just love it even more. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I just love that. And like I said, I'm just so excited to dive right into this, conversation. And so, so first of all, of course, as you just mentioned, that you are majoring in strategic communication and that you used to minor in marketing. And so I guess I'll ask, start with that and say, so what really made you want to, actually minor in marketing and then I guess to no longer minor in marketing?
Well, I actually still am a marketing minor. I at first I was a psych minor, but well, let me back up. I wanted to be a marketing minor, but I was thinking, okay, like you have to take math classes, so maybe I want to back out of that. But I later found out that I read like the requirements wrong, and I only had to do math if I wanted to go like the analytical marketing route. But if I wanted to do like a general marketing minor, I could do that and kind of bypass, having to take business calc and algebra. So for a moment, I was like planning to be a psych minor, and I took like the psych introductory class. And I really like psych. I think it's interesting, but it was just a lot of reading, and communications is already a lot of reading. And like psych was a lot of fast paced reading because it is a science. A lot of people forget like it is a science. And so you have to remember so much information. And I was just like, okay, I think I'm a little bit overwhelmed with this psych stuff. So let's go back to marketing. So yeah, that's where I am now. And I've completed what, two classes for the marketing minor, so I have three more left, and I'm excited to see what those entail.
Well, that's definitely, I guess a fun way to test whether or not you really wanted to do it or not, since you had to sort of go between the two technically, I guess, twice.
Yeah, it's okay. You really don't know how things go until you experience it. I kind of learned that over and over again, and I recently experienced that with New York. Yeah, just because I had a lot of preconceived notions about like how New York would be, just like hearing stories. There are like a lot of TikToks like only in New York. And I'm like, oh, that's strange. But when we went for our spring trip last month, I actually liked it more than I thought I would. So yeah, you really just got to jump in and try things before you say, I like that. I already know I like it. Like you think you might like it, but you can end up being like, maybe that's not for me, or vice versa. You could really like want to stay away from something, and then once you actually do it, you see how beneficial it is, or how similar to your lifestyle or your beliefs, or just like similar to like what you want to do. It just could be life changing. So you just gotta jump in.
Yeah, definitely. And even though I definitely want to ask about, your time right now as a strategic communication student, I do want to actually, speak on to what you were saying regarding New York. And so I do know that you are, yeah, of course, involved within the ODU PRSSA chapter. And are you able to tell us a little bit about your involvement in the chapter leading up to the spring trip?
Yes, so right now I'm just a current member of the PRSSA chapter, which for people who don't know, it's the Public Relations Student Society of America. So we kind of take like the communication study we're doing, and we kind of try to, work with professionals in the industry, kind of network with them to get like an understanding of what actually goes on in the field. And we try to get all our classmates together so they can learn from those people. And we're really just focused on like trying to get all the insight we can, whether that's like taking trips like the New York trip, or just like having guest speakers. So as a current member, I joined at the beginning of this school year back in September, and I just remember like everyone coming together and thinking, there's a lot we could do this year. Like, let's kind of like kick it up a notch just a little bit. And so we had like a lot of ideas. Of course, there's an e-board, so the president and vice president, they were thinking, okay, well, let's get all the ideas we can and kind of like put them into like practice. And something I helped with was getting guest speakers. So I had my friend Nia Tariq, who is a communications director. I had her come in and I did like a one woman like panel where I asked her questions, just about like how she got her start in the field, because she's kind of closer to our age, and I think she's wonderful. And then I also was the one who suggested having the vice president or the assistant vice president of PR at ODU come in and like speak to us, and she had a wonderful discussion. So just making suggestions and helping get them like into play or whatever, because I know like a lot of times like the actual e-board is busy, and like they need help with suggestions or like contacts. So a lot of times like I was like, okay, like I know this person, like maybe I can help contact them and get back to you, and you can handle all the rest. I can introduce you both. So yeah, a little bit of that. And I'm excited to keep being in the organization for next year.
I absolutely love that. And yeah, and of course, from my own personal experience, as well as a ODU member, at the time of speaking, the current online liaison, is that, like one of the things about that too is that every year we do our annual spring trip that, is allowed to bring our most devoted members, our e-board, and whoever else, is able to come on and get to explore somewhere. In Parish, I'll let you tell us a little bit as to what we did and where we went.
Yeah, so we went to New York City, which was really ambitious of us. I'm glad we were able to pull it off, but it was just a great day. Normally we would tour PR firms in this club, but I think with New York, there's just so much you can experience, and so we kind of wanted to just for one spring trip, see what other things are available that are related to communications. And so for the first day, we were able to sit in on a discussion with Miss Muriel Fox, who is like a PR master, especially for women. She got her start in the 1940s or 50s, and she was just having a discussion for um, International Women's Month. I think it is. Is it national or international? I think it's international. But yeah, she was having a discussion about getting her start in the field and all the setbacks she faced and all the ridicule she got for being a woman and how she had to prove herself. And by the time she got in these spaces, people appreciated her work and admired her. So it's just nice getting to ask her questions. Brandon you asked a really good question about like what's something people don't ask you. And the whole time she was talking about these like feminist greats, like these women who have really paved the way. And in my head I was thinking, I've never heard of these women. I had to look them up. And Brandon, when you asked, oh, what's something people normally don't ask you, and she said, people never ask me like, who are these women, like, tell me more about them. And I just thought that was funny because in my head I was thinking, wow, I definitely was wondering that. Probably should have asked. But that was nice. It was also sweet taking a picture with her. But that also took us into the next day, which was a tour of the United Nations, which was pretty cool. I get to see, well, we got to see a little bit more like history and like world relations, which was kind of cool because in communications you could end up working for an organization like that or working abroad where you have to like bridge a gap between your American corporation and maybe like an international one or just like international people. So that was cool. Also, NBC Studios, that was pretty cool. The next day, getting to tour the studio was pretty cool, and also like seeing the behind the scenes stuff because a lot of people want to go into entertainment. And that was fun. Getting to film a mock episode of the Tonight Show, that was really like a unique experience. Just having to read the teleprompter, I didn't know how difficult it was because you think, okay, I know how to read, but the pace it's going at, and like you also have to make sure to like engage with the audience or the faux audience in our case, and also like making sure to like look at the camera. There's so much going on in your head that it's kind of taking away from the reading part, and so you have to kind of like in your head think, okay, like make sure I'm reading, but also make sure I'm looking at the camera and make sure I sound excited for this part because this is an exciting part, but you really have no time to really process because literally everything's like scrolling up. So I mean that was interesting. People were saying, oh, maybe you could go into show business, and I was thinking maybe I can. So it was really nice to have like a sort of like practice run, I guess.
That's amazing. And yeah, you would do great at show business. And I think an important thing that that I think that you left out though is that when we were doing the mock Tonight Show, that you were the host of it.
Oh yes, how could I forget? I was the host. I was, filling in for Fallon. I don't know where he was, but it's okay. Hopefully next time, I get to take over the show in its entirety. I think that would be cool. I don't know who to like put in a word to, but I think we can make that happen.
Yeah, I think you would definitely be a great successor there. And yeah, I mean, overall, what would you say was your favorite part about the whole trip?
Honestly, I've never been to New York before, so just being able to like walk around and see things, even though we were kind of like tourists, I felt like we lived in New York just because we were there for like what 3 or 4 days, give or take. So like just we were walking around finding food, shopping. We got on the subway, we got on the city bus, which was not exciting, having to sandwich in. But it was really just nice to experience that. It felt like home, but like an elevated version of home. It's funny, like whenever I go somewhere, I'm like, oh wow, this is a new place. Like it's gonna be so different. And then like you step on it and you're like, wait a minute, like I forgot like we're all on the same earth. Like you know, it's not that much different. They have street signs, they have, like buildings, they have trash cans, just like Virginia. But, it's just like the amount of people and, the heights of the building, it's just, that was probably the only difference. And like the way people get around and like how the actual stores looked. But it was just like, wow, like I'm in a different place, but it kind of feels like the same. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just like a weird experience, like being like far from home, but like also at the same time, we were only an 8 hour like ride away. Riding the train was also fun. I've never done that before. So overall, I would say just experiencing New York was just a time to be had.
I absolutely, am so glad that you enjoyed the trip. I definitely enjoyed the trip, as well. And I just thought it was just such a fun event to start ending out the academic year for the organization. And so,
Hmm.
and so I guess continuing on though is that, I know the spring trips are oftentimes where people for our chapter for PRSSA can definitely see themselves, potentially progressing forward in the organization. And I know that holds true for you.
Yes, yes. I will be vice president of the organization next year, which I'm excited about. We're really trying to like figure out how to top New York. I mean, how do you do that? So I think we really have our hands full next school year. We're also going to try to do like a lot more fundraising. That way, more people can kind of experience the spring trip. We're thinking about doing like local tours or maybe like trying to figure out how to do like job shadowing experiences because that could be helpful a lot of the time. So yeah, there's a lot we can do, but we're just trying to figure out like, oh, like how practical are these things on our bucket list. So I'm excited to see how that goes next year. And yeah, it is nice to be able to progress, take on a leadership role. And everyone is so like great. We have a lot of doting members who are just like really ready to do all the work that needs to be done. And most of the e-board after next year will be graduating. So we're really going to be focused on, getting new members and getting people that could potentially like take the organization from our hands basically, and help lead it into its next 10 years because we just celebrated the 10th anniversary, right? So this is really like a milestone moment where we have to pick up the pace and go farther because you always want to go farther and up the ante. So yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, definitely. And I did want to definitely, speak a bit about, this 10th anniversary, celebration we just recently had. And so overall, so I guess for me, I'm actually going to go ahead and provide a little bit of background. So ODUPRSSA has been around for now 10 years as of April or May 2024. And I mean, overall, that's a pretty exciting milestone for our chapter. And so, yeah, we definitely decided to end out this academic year with a bang. And Parrish, overall, how was that for you? And are you able to tell us a little bit about what we ended up doing?
Yes, I thought it was a great celebration. I got to basically learn how our chapter got its start, and the people who were involved in that process. I thought it was a really sweet story. There were a lot of tears that just really spoke to how much of a community our university is. It was just a great moment. What did we do the first day? I kind of forgot. It was just a week ago. Oh my gosh, the time flies. What did we do that first day? Oh, yes, there was a panel. So there was a panel from industry professionals where we got to learn about, a lot of the ups and downs in the industry because I think it's important that we hear people's success stories, but we also hear like some of their trying times. And so we heard from people about, a lot of times, thankfully, with the communications industry, it's broad enough where you can kind of like weave in and out different, positions and career fields. So they were talking about how, sometimes they would get to a specific industry and it would be a lot of like hard work, or there would be like ethical concerns, or like it would be just draining, and they would have to like pivot somewhere else. And so it was really interesting hearing their stories about how do you know when to go, because we're in a place where it's hard to land a job, especially in our field, because you really need experience and connections. We can't just come out like nursing students and say, hey, I'm a nurse, put me to work in a hospital. People want to see like, oh, like, who do you know, do you have writing samples, do you have experience like communicating? And it's kind of like, well, like, if someone would give me a shot, like, please. So yeah, it was really nice just hearing from them like their experiences, and just some advice and how to get started. One thing that really stuck with me was Hang Tran, a alumni member, was talking about how her and her husband, and I believe her sister-in-law, put together a spreadsheet every time they applied for a job. And that was a really interesting like tip that she gave us, like, put together a spreadsheet so you can see like when you apply for something, how many jobs you're applying to, just to give yourself a little bit of insight. And she told us that from that she learned that it took about 40 applications on average before they got like a simple like callback, like, hey, like, we kind of want to interview you. And so I thought that was really interesting. Like, wow, it really takes 40 applications to even get one interview. That's kind of insane. So yeah, it was a little bit like, okay, like, rest assured, students, like, don't be afraid to, like, get told no. Like, it's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen a lot more than you think. So that was really interesting getting to hear that. But then the next day we had like a actual celebration where we watched the fabulous video that you put together, Brendan, or Brandon. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Brendan O'Halloran, our professor. But yeah, it was nice just like seeing all the photos and all the people, like I said, who like helped start the chapter, and hearing the stories, and just getting together with the people who I remember being in classes with like a year or two ago. So that was nice. And I know you went to the breakfast the following morning at what, 7:30 a.m. So it was just an action packed like kind of like week of, just like celebrating 10 years, because we've all put so much like hard work in, making sure that this chapter is something that people can take a lot from, including ourselves.
Yeah, and like I said, and something I think, I think of in terms of this, this whole celebration too, is that we get to, like I said, celebrate the history of, of our chapter and the amazing connections that that we've made across the way. And I'm so glad that, that we all had a chance to meet so many of the people who were pivotal in making this organization possible. And I feel like from here, with you and the amazing, new e-board, is that
Hmm.
you all get to take the chapter to the next, to the next chapter, and no pun intended there, but
Right.
yeah, but I'm just so excited to see what you all do with this, amazing chapter that's meant so much to so many of us that have come through this organization.
Right. Yeah, you've been so instrumental in the process, being our online liaison. So thank you for laying a great foundation. And I'm excited to see what's going on with the alumni chapter that just got started. I think it's a great way to like continue to like bridge that connection between like, like student and professional. So I think that's really cool. We'll be looking at that.
Well, thank you so much for that. And yeah, but I definitely did want to, to take a step back though. And so I know that you are, of course, a strategic communications student, here at ODU. And so overall, how did you decide to go into strategic communication?
Well, that's a great question. Well, my mom's sending me Facebook reels. But when I was in high school, well, I guess we could go to middle school. Middle school was when the 2016 election was happening. Right before high school was my eighth grade year, and so I was always following politics, and I was interested in like watching the news and such. And I was thinking, like politics is, there's a lot going on, but being a politician is not realistic unless you're rich or greedy, or both. So I was thinking, okay, like what could I do to like mix politics in my career where I'm not like running a campaign essentially, trying to gather votes because I don't think I could be a Senate member. That's just too much work. So I stumbled upon like, oh, like journalism. Like that would be a good way to be like engaged in politics without actually being in it. So I started like looking at, journalism, and I actually, what grade was it? 10th grade, I believe. I did like a 1 week workshop at our local paper, the Virginian Pilot, and that was a really great experience because it taught me that I did not want to do journalism. Um, so I think it's really great to get involved, people, because like you really learn what you don't want to do, even if you think you want to do it. But basically, just the amount of work that goes into it, the breaking news part, kind of like we did like this like breaking news like scenario, and it was just so stressful. And I was like, wow, you guys don't get paid anything. And you have to do all this. The whole time they were talking about how they didn't get paid a lot. And they were kind of like laughing, like, oh, like we don't get paid a lot. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is not the career for me because no. But yeah, then like it was that same time where like a lot of papers started like closing down, or like they started like foregoing people, their employees, and they did like a bunch of mergers, and so it felt like okay, the industry's kind of shrinking a lot. So that tied in with the low pay. I think I need to find something else because like jobs are going to come and go, but if something is like shrinking before you can even like get to college, I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't like invest money in like learning this as a skill. So I took a journalism class in high school, like right after, just to like continue learning journalism while I figured out what else I wanted. And I was like, okay, let me find something similar to journalism. So I went to the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which for people who don't know is like just like, well, it was a book of like all the jobs that you could get in the United States, but since modern times are here, it has moved online. So it's basically like an entire database where you can go through all the jobs in the United States, give or take. They're kind of like grouped by category in the field also, and like they lay out, okay, like this is like the median salary, this is how to get there. So this is like what you would study in college. Here's a bunch of degrees that, would get you there. Um, Here's like the expected like growth rate or shrink rate, here's like a map of the states that get paid the most, or the metropolitan cities that pay the most, and which ones have like the most jobs or the most employees. It's just a bunch of information, what the career looks like. So I went through that, and I encourage everyone who is coming up like in high school wondering what they want to do, or maybe even in college. I know a lot of people change majors because they don't know what they want to do. I think that is the best place to start because normally I think everyone like takes inspiration from like a parent or a teacher or like a popular person in media, and they go, that seems interesting, I want to do that. But they're not really comparing it to all the other things that are out there, and a lot of times we don't know what's out there, so we miss a lot. And that really lays out what careers are out there. And so I went through the communications category and I found public relations, and I was thinking, that sounds interesting. And unlike the journalism category, it showed the median salary as a lot higher. Things kind of change over the years. This was years ago, so I don't know how it looks now, but I think it still is over journalism. And also to that point, it was expected to grow 10% when I checked it a few years ago, versus I think journalism was like going to shrink by like 4%. And so I was thinking, okay, well, like this is like the opposite side of journalism, like media relations or like PR. Like I was seeing like advertising was related and marketing, and I was thinking I've always been interested in like those too. So it just seemed like the perfect fit for me. And so when it was time to like apply to college, like late 12th grade, I was decided, okay, I'm going to go into public relations. And yeah, I've stuck with it since then. I've never changed my major. Each class, I really come to appreciate it a lot more. So yeah, that's a long story, but I think it's important to like explain like how you get there from something that's, a lot different than where you are now.
Overall, I love the trajectory, that you had from, I mean, the results of the 2016, election, wanting to potentially do, journalism, and then, evolving throughout to end up where you are now with strategic communication. And out of curiosity, did you have any inklings as to what you may have potentially wanted to do prior to 2016?
um, well, I remember in kindergarten I wanted to be a police officer. Don't know why. I remember in kindergarten they showed us like a crime video, and it was like, oh, police officers have to defend themselves from bad guys. And I was thinking, oh, I don't want to do that. I just want to save the city. I thought I was gonna be like a superhero. Um, you know, almost 20 years later, wow, it's been a while, 15, 20 years later. I understand that that's not what the police force is actually, but we won't go into that. So then I wanted to be a teacher just because I was so inspired by, the people who were like my teachers growing up. But also like a lot of them were like, oh, like think bigger than that. Like, they were kind of hinting at me from an early age, like we're overworked and underpaid. I guess that's been like a common like theme in my life when it comes to picking careers. But I really appreciate how open and honest people are. Like I said, like you never really know. You could pick like a high paying field and, never land anything. But I think it's nice when people are open, like, okay, like, yeah, okay, you might want to do this, but really rethink it because, this is how it actually is. Rather than like sugarcoating it, like, oh, that's so sweet. You want to be a teacher just like me. Like, let me try to convince you so I can say, like, I inspired you. Like, no, I think that was really real of them. So, yeah, I don't know when I wanted to stop being a teacher. Maybe like, I don't know, like fourth or fifth grade. Um, Yeah, then kind of like middle school, I think it was like fifth grade, sixth grade, I kind of wanted to go into graphic design. So that was something. My mom, like, she went to community college and did graphic design, and like, she's like so creative. I'm jealous of how creative my mom is. Like, I wish I could take that from her. I don't know why she didn't pass it down. She says that she did, but I don't think so. She's really good. But yeah, but I really liked art. And so I took an art class, of course, in middle school, like they made everyone do. And I was thinking, I don't really think I'm good at this. Like, that's why you're there to learn and like practice, but it just didn't feel like the right fit for me. It just felt like art is so competitive. Like the degree programs, just looking at them, like you have to have a portfolio of like quality work. And for me, it was like, oh, I don't think I can produce this quality work. Like, I don't think like my skills are up to par, which is okay. I don't like to like block myself from anything, but sometimes you really have to sit back and think, yeah, like I'm sure I could get better at this with time, but I don't think, it's worth it, the amount of time I have to put in. So I kind of like let that go, just because like I couldn't draw and I couldn't paint. and I was like, ooh, this might be a problem. So I was like thinking, okay, like what else do I do? So I was thinking about similar things like TV production. I was really interested in that. What else? Yeah, like advertising. I just really went through like those jobs. Thought about law for a second. I really did, but I was like, okay, that's a lot of money and a lot of time to invest. Also thought about like dental hygiene. I really wanted to be a dental hygienist, or eventually like a dentist or orthodontist. But the amount of math and science you have to take is crazy, especially for someone who's not good in those subjects. So yeah, that's when I kind of got like rerouted to journalism. So I had a few thoughts. Oh, I also wanted to be like an environmental scientist because I really like the environment and like Earth and things like that. So I skated around a lot of ideas, but I think like communications just it felt the most right to me because ever since I was like a little kid in kindergarten, I think people had always noticed how like personable I was or like how energetic I was about connecting with people and also like learning and just like putting those together, communication I think was the perfect fit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're definitely perfect for this field, but I love that you had so many different interests. I mean, in different fields, throughout your life. But but I'm glad that this is the one that you ended up choosing. And so I guess like over your time here, well, actually, I'll take a step back. So overall, I'm so glad that you decided to choose strategic communications out of everything. But had Old Dominion University always been your first choice, or is that always where you decided to go to?
No, that's a good question. I was actually going to go to VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. I went through the whole process. Like I signed up, had a roommate, had a housing assignment, had like a schedule, but I got the bill for it around like the 4th of July, so a little over a month before I was scheduled to move in, and I was thinking, hmm, this is expensive. Why do I have to take out so much in loans? And why do I still have a balance left over after that? So it's kind of like, okay, like this is like my dream school, but I have to be realistic and kind of like find another option. And so I read like the fine print because I'm someone who always reads contracts and like terms of agreements because you won't ever fool me, okay? I always make sure like this is so random, but like when it comes to customer service, like I'm that person. I don't like to be a Karen, but I'm the person like, no, I read all your terms and agreements. I know what I deserve. So basically I saw like in the contract, like when they gave me my housing assignment, it said if you don't cancel within the next 2 weeks, you will be charged like a 50% of like the housing like tuition or the housing fee or whatever. And I was thinking, okay, I got to make a decision now because I'm not going to pay 4 grand or 2 grand for housing that I'm not going to live in. So I was thinking, okay, like, what do I do now? Like, it's July. Like, where do I go? So I was thinking about community college, but I was like, no, I really don't want to do that. And so I was talking to a lady at my high school, just emailing and phone calling, because my high school is really nice about like helping us transition to college. They were always there, like answer any questions or provide guidance. And she said, have you thought about ODU? And I was like, oh yeah, I got in, but I like rejected, their acceptance a long time ago. So I don't know if they would let me in. And she was like, no, just try, like call them. So like I called and the lady picked up the phone in admissions and she said, hello, admissions. And I said, hi, like quick question. I got accepted back in like December and I rejected the acceptance because I was planning on going somewhere else. However, that didn't work out. So is there any way like I can like be like I can like undo my rejection and like come to the university? I was like basically like, can I still come to ODU? And she took a pause and like my heart was like beating like, oh no, like what if she says no, like this is really it? And she said, yeah, that's fine. Just send us an email. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is cool. So I had like went through like the degree plans, and I was thinking, okay, well, do they have public relations? Because I know VCU had like an actual like communications like with the PR emphasis. So I was thinking, okay, well, does ODU have something PR? So I was digging through, and they had something called strategic communications, and I was like, what the heck is that? So I was like, okay, like let's dig through the courses, which I think is also a nice tip for anyone in high school. Like once you go to like the OOH and find out like, oh, okay, these are some careers I want to do, go to the colleges that you're planning on going to or planning on applying to, go to like their course database, look at the degrees, but also try to look at the actual courses that the students take, because a lot of times like the degree names will like you'll be thinking, I don't know what that is. But like if you actually look at the courses, you're like, oh, like okay, so this is you know this public relations. Basically, that's what happened to me. I was thinking, okay, these classes are seeming like what you would learn in public relations. From my knowledge, looking at the OOH, so I was like, okay. Come to find out, when I actually get to the university, I think that was the year that they had changed the name from public relations to strategic communications. So that's exactly what it was. But yeah, I really didn't want to come to ODU, if I'm being honest. I just wrote it off as, oh, that's too close to home. Like everyone's going there. I want to get like not far away from home, like out of state, but I want to go somewhere new, and it ended up being like the perfect place for me. I love ODU. I loved its first 3 years. I'm kind of sad that my time at ODU is like coming to an end when I graduate in a year. But overall, I think it's been a great experience, and so you just can't write things off until you try it.
I love that though, and yeah, I mean, I'm glad at least that everything was able to work out like there, and hopefully, you know, you, and hopefully you were able to avoid all of the different charges and everything, at least as much as you could for, yeah, for ending out your admittance to VCU.
Yes, yes. I didn't get charged anything. That's what happens when you read and you act. You have to read and act. Can't wait. You can't wait.
I'm glad everything was able to work out. And out of curiosity, did you ever have a chance to meet your would have been roommate for VCU?
No, we texted a lot. We were excited. Like our birthdays are like the same week and everything. Um, and I told him, I was like, hey, like, oh, like, so sorry, but I'm gonna be going to ODU now. So like, I hope like, whoever ends up being your roommate is everything, you know, you wish for in a roommate. But I gotta go. He was kind of like, no, like, no, like, did you like talk to someone at VCU? Like, I'm pretty sure they can work it out. And I was like, yeah, it's not working out. So yeah, I felt bad, but you gotta do what's for you. And so yeah.
And hopefully, your time at ODU, hopefully that's a lot, more financially acceptable, for you as opposed to VCU. I hope.
It definitely was. It definitely was. So, yeah, it was a good choice. Finances first. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, so like strung on the fact that like, oh, I need to go to like this big school. But honestly, you can go to school anywhere. It's just the experience and who you know. Now, I will say, going to a bigger school, I mean, like, you get to develop a more serious network, in a lot of cases. Like, if you get the chance to go to Harvard, I mean, why not? I mean, that like rings bells like once people see it on your resume. But if you can't make it happen, don't worry about it. You can always meet people in your city or your state or your community that have connections as well. So there are a lot of hardworking, like A-grade industry professionals like in your own community. And it's a lot better to start there first a lot of times, because they might have some similar stories or similar upbringings to you that you can relate to.
Well, I said, well, I'm glad at least that you've been able to make, like I said, the most of your time and able to find an opportunity that sort of worked more for you. And so outside of, of course, just the university and PSA, of course, I know that you are a embedded history tutor.
Yes, that's an interesting job. So embedded history tutoring is I'm actually placed in the classroom. That's where the embedded comes from. Haha. But it's really interesting because I think it's a great job. Mostly because you get to connect with the students. A lot of them are freshmen, some of them aren't, but just like when they're coming into college, a lot of them are first generation, or they're a little bit nervous about starting college, or they're coming in as students who really weren't the best in high school, and now that they're in college, getting closer to having to secure a job, they're a lot more serious about their studies and they want to do well. But in a lot of cases, they don't know like the first step. So it's really nice to kind of like help ease them into that process. It's also nice because if people don't come, I still get paid. So a lot of times I can use it to do my homework and catch up. But I do wish like more people took advantage of the opportunity, just because there are some students in that class who aren't doing well, and that's the whole purpose of the program. History is a high DFWI class, which means a lot of students end up dropping it, or failing it, or getting it incomplete. So it's a great opportunity to connect with a peer, but also get some extra help in understanding, okay, like this is how a history class works, this is probably what you want to do. Okay, your professor has a lecture style that's not really you know working for you. Let's talk about how to overcome that. Here's some strategies, here's some resources, here's some transferable skills that you can get from this process and put to work for your other classes. So it really is a nice role. And I've met some great colleagues who are really interested in helping people like me. That's basically where this job came from, me wanting to like take a more active like leadership role. And so that is what I did. And I'm going to continue doing it for next year. So I'm excited to meet even more students, to kind of like have a connection with them. It's so nice. There are a few students who like when they see me walking around campus, like they always greet me and I greet them. So it's nice that we get to build like a stronger sense of community that way. But yeah, it's a great job. I think everyone in that department, faculty wise, is like so helpful. And it really is like the preparing work is a lot. Um, just because you have to make sure that like you're preparing in the best way to help the students. But it also kind of is laid back. So I really appreciate the flexibility of it.
I love it. And would you say that generally that you are pretty good with history?
Yes, history was my favorite subject before um, I started college. So, um, yeah, I didn't have to be a history major. The other tutors are history majors, but with me liking history, I was always good in it. And so, I understand that history might not be everyone's subject. So, for someone who is really passionate about it, I kind of like try to dig into, what they're doing currently and what methods they could try to kind of like like boost their grade or change the way they interact with history. So yeah, I thought about being a history teacher in like high school. I think I went back to that actually. Like, could I be a history teacher or a history professor? Would that be in the cards? But yeah.
Well, that definitely, like I said, makes perfect sense. And I definitely love history myself. So I'm so glad that you have, yeah, a chance to have this just such amazing opportunity. And so, outside of everything else, like what else do you do, during your time as a undergrad? Because I know this time definitely flies by quickly.
Yes. I also volunteer, so I am always doing something with the Office of Leadership and Learning, which is pretty fun because you get to meet new students and also like you get to go out into the community and meet organizations that are doing really good work. And it's just really great. A lot of people are scared to volunteer, which I know I was too. I remember going in high school. I always wanted to volunteer, but I didn't want to do it by myself. So I would try to convince my friends to come along. And a lot of times they would like drop out. And so I would be like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, because it's going to be awkward. But, you just have to jump in. It's really fun. I went during Thanksgiving. It was, how many years ago was it? Oh my gosh, was it a year ago? I think it was a year ago, where they were collecting cans for like a Thanksgiving like food drive. And the lady who was in charge of volunteering, Kara Boone, who's wonderful, said, "Oh, we're going to be sorting the cans tomorrow at 8 a.m. if you want to help." And I was like, 8 a.m. Like, hello, that's really early. But I did it, and it was just nice, like meeting everyone in that room who is so passionate about volunteering. And I was thinking, okay, I could do this more. So I've definitely become close with everyone in the volunteering department, and it's led to other opportunities like presenting to the board of visitors, which was really cool. And also, just like I said, like meeting new people. There's someone who works in the office that's a strategic communications major, and I've kind of like been able to connect with her and like give her insight into the major and the different things. So yeah, that's really fun. I think it's cool like doing impactful work like that. I think it's a great excuse, to just unplug from your phone, get out and like do something meaningful. Because, a lot of times I'm like, okay, I have free time, let me just sit on my phone. But I mean, what are you gaining from that? Nothing. You're just rotting your brain, as they say. So, yeah, volunteering is a great way to unplug, actually. I recommend it.
Well, I'm so glad, and like I said, I'm glad that you're working to be very well rounded in like I said, in your degree, because I know when when I decided to go to undergrad, I was just like, you know what, it's like if I'm going to be here for potentially 4 years, I want to make the most of almost every opportunity on this campus.
Right. Yeah, there's so much out here. I think being a first generation student, it's like, okay, like I'm here, like no one's ever done this before. Like, I don't know what to do, so let's just do everything and see how it goes. Like, that's really my game plan. Just do everything. And if I don't like it, I get to say, okay, I did that. Don't want to do it again. Or I get to say, wow, I actually like that. So, yeah, I'm just trying to experience the most that I can, especially since I'm paying for it. But I think college is such a unique experience because where else, except for the military, maybe, will you get to live with people your age and get to see people with the same interests as you every single day and get to work with them and network with them and you know do activities with them, so I think it's a really great experience, and it's also a teachable experience because there's so many people here in this close-knit community that you just get to prepare just working with all types of personalities and backgrounds, which I think is interesting for like going into the workforce because you're definitely gonna um come into contact with a lot of different people. So yeah, I just try to do all that I can just to say that I did it.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And even though we're beginning to wrap up, I did want to ask, so what do you plan to do after, finishing out your undergrad? And I know, of course, you still have another year left. So I guess, what do you plan to do in senior year and then afterwards?
Well, senior year, I'm still gonna be a history tutor. I'm also gonna start like a peer mentor role for the volunteering floor at our residence hall. So we have a volunteering floor, and I know next year we're really trying to like get more people in it. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to continue being in PRSSA, as a vice president this time. And so those are the three main things I have going on. But yeah, just I'm all finished up with my communication classes. So now I'm looking at electives like art and marketing for my marketing minor, of course, and like English to kind of like round out the communications because I think those three things go so well with communications. They don't tell you this, but you do a lot of like in strategic communications and marketing and advertising, you do a lot of like creation, like art wise, which is really cool because you get to add another tool under your tool belt. Um, but it's really daunting. Um, Art is a lot of work, especially when it's not your main job and you have to create a marketing plan and then do the art. So, learning how to balance, having to do multiple things is always like a learning experience. So, yeah, I'm excited to do that. But yeah, just keep on experiencing, meeting new people, making new connections, and just going where the wind takes me. I've learned that you can only plan so much, and the wind just takes your plans and blows them every which way. So, learning how to be more adaptable. I'm excited to continue doing that.
I absolutely love that. Like I said, thank you so much. Like I said, for coming on the show and for for speaking with us. I have definitely enjoyed this conversation, and I love the way that you do storytelling. By the way,
Oh, I'm glad. There's so many thoughts racing through my mind. I'm like, maybe I'm talking too much, but I think there's a lot of important points I wanted to hit on just because, it's hard out here and it's confusing. And, I think just like hearing from someone, all sides of everything, can really give you more confidence to take on, new experiences. So I appreciate when people like go into huge detail. So that's what I try to do. I try to give people all angles. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I'm so happy that I could be here on the show.
yeah, of course. And like I said, I absolutely, like I said, love this, this conversation that we've been having. And like I said, and I know this definitely will not be our last conversation. And I'm so excited to see what you do with your vice presidency. And like I said, it's absolutely well deserved.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to see what Brandon does. Everyone just is in awe of your talent, and you're like, oh wow, like you're just drive to keep upping the ante for yourself. So I'm excited, and I am excited to come back to the show again. Hopefully, we're in front of a studio audience next time.
Okay, now that you've mentioned that, like that actually sounds like a really cool idea. If I ever figure out a way to get that to work, like yeah, you will definitely be receiving a phone call.
Oh, thank you. My phone will be on.
Well, I'm definitely, I said glad to hear that. And for everyone that might want to go ahead and and give you a follow or connect with you, where's the best places for them to do so?
Well, yes, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So I'm Parish Thompson on LinkedIn. There aren't many of us, thankfully. I have a really unique name. But yes, just give me a follow. I like to see what other people are doing. I think that's the best place to reach me. So yeah, I'm excited to see all the people out here.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, Pierce is just such a great resource to have and an even better friend to have. So I definitely recommend, like I said, following Parrish. And last but certainly not least for this episode, I did want to allow a moment for you to go ahead and close us out with whether it be a life lesson, inspirational thought, or whatever the case may be. The floor is all yours, Parrish.
Okay, life lessons. I would say don't be afraid to not know what you're doing. If that makes sense. I think we never really know what we're doing, so don't let that hold you back. Don't let like your lack of experience hold you back. Every opportunity is an opportunity to learn, and just jump in. Just jump in is what I would say to everyone, because just jumping in has rewarded me so much. So yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
I absolutely love that. Like I said, thank you so much, Parrish, like I said, for coming on and for enlightening us all. And I just so enjoyed this, and I just cannot wait for our future conversations and what you're going to do in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I hope this has been a great, entertaining, informative conversation.
Yeah, I definitely hope that those tuning in have enjoyed this as much as I have. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I always appreciate your support. Continue tuning into the Tansson Talk Show every week, and I'm excited to speak with you then. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.